Tadej Pogačar. Tadej Pogačar, Slovene pronunciation, born the 21st of September 1998, also known as Porgy, is a Slovenian professional cyclist who currently rides for UCI World Team UAE Team Emirates. He won the 2020 and 2021 editions of the Tour de France, winning 3 different jerseys during each tour, a feat unseen in nearly 4 decades. He won the 2024 edition of the Giro d'Italia, winning also the Mountains classification and 6 stages. Comfortable in time trialing, one-day classic riding and Grand Tour climbing, he has been compared to legendary all-round cyclists such as Eddy Merckx and Bernardino. In 2019, he became the youngest cyclist to win a UCI World Tour race with the Tour of California win at the age of 20. Later in the year, in his debut Grand Tour, Pogačar won 3 stages of the Vuelta a España en route to an overall 3rd-place finish and the Young Rider title. In both his Tour de France debut and the following year, he won 3 stages and the race overall, as well as the Mountains and Young Rider classifications, becoming the only rider to win these 3 classifications simultaneously. He is the first Slovenian winner, and, at the age of 21, the second youngest winner after Henri Cornet, who won in 1904 at the age of 19. He is the first road cyclist in history to break the 6,000-point barrier in UCI World Ranking. He is a 3-time national time trial champion, 2019, 2020, 2023. He is the only rider who has won the white jersey at the Tour de France 4 times overall, and during this span held the jersey a record 75 days in total. He has won 3 different one-day monuments 6 times, Tour of Flanders once, Liège-Bastogne-Liège twice and Giro di Lombardia 3 times, Paris-Nice once and Tirreno Adriatico on 2 occasions. In 2021, he became the first Tour de France winner to take an Olympic medal in the road race in the same year after he took bronze at the men's road race. He is the current men's UCI road racing world number 1. He has been number 1 for a record total number of weeks and record number of consecutive weeks. He finished the 2021, 2022 and 2023 seasons as world number 1. Early career. Pogačar followed his older brother Tylan in joining the ROG Ljubljana club at the age of 9. In 2011 he came to the attention of Road World Championship medalist André Hauptmann, who is, as of 2021, his coach and head coach and selector for the Slovenian national cycling team. Hauptmann watched Pogačar pursuing a group of much older teenagers from 100 meters behind. Thinking that Pogačar was struggling to keep up with the older riders, he told the race organizers that they should provide some assistance to Pogačar. The organizers explained that the younger rider was in fact about to lap the group he was chasing. Hauptmann subsequently managed Pogačar as an under-23 rider with the ROG Ljubljana team, before joining UAE Team Emirates as a director sportif in May 2019, after Pogačar joined the team. UAE Team Emirates, 2019-present. 2019. Pogačar joined UAE Team Emirates from the 2019 season, a deal that was made ahead of the 2018 Tour de Slovenia, which he won. He made his debut for the team at the Tour Down Under, where he finished 13th overall. He went on to win the Volta ao Algarve, taking the race lead after winning the 2nd stage. He also placed 6th at the Tour of the Basque Country. In May 2019, he won the Tour of California, becoming the youngest rider to win a UCI World Tour stage race. He took the race lead after winning the Queen stage to Mount Baldy on stage 6. In June, Pogačar won the Slovenian National Time Trial Championship after beating Matej Mohoric by 29 seconds. In August, Pogačar was named in the team's start list for the Vuelta a España, his debut in a Grand Tour. In the first week, he performed strongly, placing himself in the top 10 on GC, general classification, before winning his first Grand Tour stage on the rain-soaked stage to Kortelsdon Camp. The win allowed him to move inside the top 5 on GC. On stage 13, which finished on the steep climb of Los Macucos, he was the only rider to stay with the race leader and his compatriot, Primož Roglič. Pogačar ended up winning his second stage to move up to third overall, where he stayed heading into the second rest day. After losing time on stage 18, he dropped down to fifth on GC. On the penultimate stage, with one last chance to move up the standings, Pogačar launched an attack, going on an almost 40-kilometer, 25 miles, solo breakaway. He eventually took his third stage win, winning by more than a minute and a half over the rest of the contenders. The win allowed him to finish the Vuelta in third overall, the final podium position, and giving him the victory in the Young Rider Classification. 2020. Before the season started, Pogačar announced that he was making his debut at the Tour de France, where he planned on riding in support of Fabio Aru. He made his season debut at the Volta a la Comunitat Valenciana, where he won 2 stages on his way to winning the race. At the curtailed UAE Tour, he won the 5th stage, which finished atop the Jebel Hafit, and finishing second to Eddy Merckx on GC. In March, cycling events were among those postponed by the COVID-19 pandemic. When the season resumed, he took 4th overall in the Criterium du Dauphiné. In the Slovenian National Championships, he finished second to Primož Roglič in the road race before defeating him in the time trial, defending his title. In the Tour de France, Pogačar quickly demonstrated that he was in better form than Aru, his team's initial leader, after finishing second to Roglič on stage 4, which finished atop the climb of Orsias Merlet. However, he lost almost a minute and a half on stage 7, which was affected by crosswinds. The next day, he began to claw back time when he attacked on the Col de Peyresord, gaining back 38 seconds over the rest of the contenders. After Aru withdrew on stage 9, Pogačar won the stage to Lawrence, his first Tour stage win, by out-sprinting Egan Bernal and Roglič, who took the maillot jaune, as well as Mark Hirschi, who had been on an 80-kilometer, 50 miles, solo breakaway. On stage 13, which finished atop the steep climb of Puy-Mary, he was the only rider to stay with Roglič and moving up to second overall at 44 seconds down. He also took the lead in the Young Rider Classification in the process. 2 days later, he outsprinted Roglič at the top of the Col du Grand Colombier to take his second stage of the race. At the beginning of the third week, Pogačar sat in second overall at 40 seconds behind Roglič. On stage 17, the Queen stage, which finished atop the Col de la Loz, he struggled to follow Roglič, eventually losing 17 seconds. Ahead of the penultimate stage, a 36.2-kilometer, 22.5 miles, time trial finishing at La Planche des Belles Filles, Pogačar faced a 57 seconds deficit to Roglič. At the first time check, he had already managed to claw back 13 seconds from his compatriot. He headed into the final climb with a lead of 36 seconds and a deficit of 21 seconds on the virtual GC. Pogačar gradually gained time on the climb before going into the virtual maillot jaune with 4 kilometers, 2.5 miles, left. He eventually took the stage victory, his third of the race, almost a minute and a half ahead of Tom Dumoulin, while Roglič finished almost 2 minutes down. The result meant he took the maillot jaune with a lead of 59 seconds on Roglič and the lead in the mountain classification. The next day, he finished safely in the peloton to officially win the Tour, becoming the first Slovenian winner of the race. At the age of 21, he also became the second youngest winner of the Tour, just behind Henri Cornet, who won the Tour in 1904 at the age of 19. In addition to winning the Tour, he also won the Young Rider Classification as well as the Mountains Classification. The previous rider to win 3 jerseys was Eddy Merckx in 1972. He became the 12th rider to win the Tour de France on his first attempt, and the first since 1983. After the Tour, Pogačar competed in the men's road race at the World Championships, where he supported Roglič, who eventually finished in 6th place. 3 days later, he competed at La Flèche Wallonne where he finished in 9th place. He ended his season at Liège-Bastogne-Liège, where he originally finished in 4th place before moving up to 3rd following Julian Alaphilippe's relegation. 2021. He started the 2021 season by winning the UAE Tour, Tirreno Adriatico, Liège-Bastogne-Liège, his first win in a monument, and the Tour of Slovenia. He began the 2021 Tour de France as one of the pre-race favourites along with Primož Roglič, Geraint Thomas, and Richard Carapaz. On stage 1 he finished with the group of favourites 8 seconds behind stage winner Julian Alaphilippe and took the lead in the white jersey classification. Pogačar won the 5th stage, the race's first time trial, finishing 18 seconds ahead of Stefan Kung and taking significant time out of his GC rivals. On stage 8 he launched an attack, from more than 6 minutes behind the breakaway, taking over the yellow jersey with a lead of over 4.5 minutes on those considered to be contenders for the overall victory. Pogačar extended his GC lead on the 9th stage to Tignes, responding to an attack by Carapaz on the final climb 4 kilometers, 2.5 miles, from the finish and dropping his rivals in the main group, emerging with an overall lead of over 2 minutes over second-placed Ben O'Connor, who had moved up the order after winning the stage from the breakaway. Following stage 11, which included a double ascent of Mont Ventoux, the closest rivals to Pogačar included Rigoberto Urán, Jonas Vingegaard, and Carapaz, but all of them remained more than 5 minutes behind. Pogačar had temporarily lost some time to Vingegaard on the final ascent of Ventoux before catching him on the descent to the finish alongside Carapaz and Urán. Pogačar extended his lead further with wins on stages 17, to the Col de Portet, and 18, in Luzarden, by which point he had a lead of 5.45 inches over Vingegaard and an unassailable lead in the polka-dot jersey classification. On the penultimate 20th stage, a time trial between Libon and Saint-Émilion, Pogačar conceded half a minute to Vingegaard but retained a lead of over 5 minutes going into the final stage to Champs-Élysées in Paris. Pogačar's win made him the youngest cyclist to win consecutive tours. This was also the second year in a row that he won 3 distinctive jerseys. Both during and at the end of the tour there were accusations of doping on social media and in the press due to the dominance Pogačar displayed. When asked about it he answered, "For sure I am not angry about it. They are uncomfortable questions because the history was really bad. I totally understand why there are all of these questions." Jonathan Vaughters, the director sportif of one of the teams who had a GC rider competing against Pogačar, Team F Education Nippo, offered an explanation for how Pogačar was able to be so successful on stage 8. He explained that the twin factors of uncharacteristic weather conditions and chaotic, uncontrolled racing dynamics played a part. In addition to this, in previous years there was usually a dominant team who would contain the attacks of any riders considered a threat for victory, whether it was Team Ineos, Team Jumbo-Visma or Movistar Team. During the 2021 Tour, teams Ineos and Jumbo had both suffered from the first week crashes and Movistar was not as strong as they had been in years past. As such, by the time Pogačar launched his attack late in the stage, there were no teams remaining who were strong enough to keep him in check. Vaughters also stated, simply put, the race was so aggressive all day long, along with really the race as a whole on the flats, that basically by the time the peloton was taking in the climbs, they were cooked. This was further exacerbated by the wet conditions. After the Tour de France, Pogačar won the bronze medal in the men's road race at the Olympic Games after finishing behind Wout van Aert in the sprint for the silver medal. At the end of July, UAE Team Emirates announced that they had agreed a 1-year extension to his contract, committing him to the team up to the end of 2027. Pogačar took a break from racing following the Olympics, returning to competition at the Bretagne Classic West France at the end of August, where he initially managed to follow an attack by Alaphilippe on a gravelled climb 60 km from the finish along with Mikel Froilich-Honoré and Benoit Cosnefroy, but was dropped by the other escapees who went on to take the podium places. In September he competed at the European Road Championships in Trentino, in the road race. After a number of breakaways had emerged and been caught by the peloton, he was able to follow an attack by Matteo Trentin to form part of a lead group which expanded to include 10 riders. However, he was unable to keep pace with a further attack from this group 23 kilometers from the end of the race, with a 3-man selection of Remco Evenepoel, Sonny Colbrelli and Cosnefroy dropping their rivals and securing themselves the medals. At the Road World Championships in Flanders later that month, Pogačar finished 37th in the road race. He then moved on to Italy in October to compete in the autumn classics held there. Although he failed to finish the Giro dell'Emilia, he made an impression at Tre Valli Varesine, animating the race with a long race attack from 120 kilometers. Although he lost contact with the head of the race due to a puncture, he won the sprint in the chase group to finish third. At Milano-Torino, Pogačar managed to keep pace with the other favorites for most of the day, emerging from the peloton's fragmentation in crosswinds 65 kilometers from the end as part of a front group which absorbed the day's early breakaway, and remaining in contention for the win until losing contact with Adam Yates and Roglic in the closing kilometers of the final climb up Superga. He subsequently lost the two-up sprint for third place to João Almeida. A few days later, Pogačar won his second monument at Il Lombardia, responding to an attack by Vincenzo Nibali by dropping the Italian and the rest of the lead group 30 kilometers from the finish, although he was subsequently joined at the front of the race by Fausto Masnada. Pogačar won the resulting two-man sprint at the finish line. He became the third rider after Fausto Coppi and Eddy Merckx to win two monuments and the Tour in the same year, and just fourth rider to win the Tour de France and the Tour of Lombardy in the same season, after Coppi, Merckx, and Bernardino, and the first to do so in 42 years. 2022. Pogačar started the season off by defending his title at the UAE Tour, winning both mountaintop finishes in the process. Afterwards, Pogačar went to Italy for an Italian block of racing, starting with the Strade Bianche. Despite getting involved in a crash with around 100 kilometers to go, Pogačar attacked on the longest sector of the race, the Monte Santa Maria, with around 50 kilometers remaining. Pogačar gradually built his advantage to more than a minute before holding off the chasers to win the race solo. 2 days later, Pogačar started his title defense at Tirreno Adriatico. He won the uphill finish on stage 4 before dominating the Queen stage. Pogačar won the general classification by almost 2 minutes over Jonas Vingegaard, as well as winning the points and young rider classifications. A week later, Pogačar rode Milan-San Remo, where he attacked several times on the Poggio before finishing in fifth. A few days later, Pogačar rode his first cobbled classic, the Dwars door Vlaanderen. He was caught in a bad position when the winning group escaped from the peloton, and despite his attempts to bridge up to the lead group, he was unable to do so and he finished in 10th. Afterwards, Pogačar rode the Tour of Flanders, his debut at a cobbled monument. Pogačar attacked on the second ascent of Oude Quermont and the Koppenberg to pull ahead of the peloton with a select group of riders. He accelerated twice more on the final ascent of Oude Quermont and the Paterberg, and only Mathieu van der Poel was able to go with him. The duo rode slowly inside the final kilometer as they prepared for the sprint, but this action allowed Dylan van Baarle and Valentin Madouas to come back in the final few hundred meters. Pogačar ended up getting boxed in during the sprint, causing him to finish fourth as Van der Poel took the win. Following the race, Pogačar shifted his focus to the Ardennes Classics, starting with the Flèche Wallonne, where he finished 12th. Pogačar was supposed to defend his title at Liège-Bastogne-Liège, but he skipped it after the death of his fiancée, Urška Zigard's mother. Pogačar returned to competition at the Tour of Slovenia, his final race before the Tour. He and Rafał Majka dominated the race, winning 2 stages each, with Pogačar winning the general classification ahead of Majka. Pogačar started the Tour with a third place in the first stage's short individual time trial, gaining time on his rivals for the general classification. On stage 5, which featured cobbles as part of the route, Pogačar rode an aggressive race to gain 13 seconds on the rest of the favorites. The following day, Pogačar won the uphill sprint to Longwy to move into the yellow jersey. On stage 7, which featured the race's first summit finish at La Planche des Belles Filles, Pogačar attacked inside the final kilometer. In the final few hundred meters, Jonas Vingegaard put in an acceleration that was only followed by the Slovenian. Pogačar moved past Vingegaard near the line to win his second successive stage, extending his lead to 35 seconds over the Dane. The next stage, Pogačar finished third in another uphill sprint to gain 4 more bonus seconds, extending his lead to 39 seconds over Vingegaard. On stage 11, the race headed to the high mountains with a stage featuring the Telegraph Galibier combo before a summit finish at Col du Granon. On the Col du Telegraph and on the lower slopes of Col du Galibier, Primož Roglič and Vingegaard began to repeatedly attack Pogačar, but the Slovene was able to respond each time. Pogačar responded by attacking towards the top of Galibier, bringing only Vingegaard with him. After the rest of the reduced peloton caught the duo on the descent, Vingegaard attacked on the Col du Granon with 4 kilometers left. Pogačar was unable to respond as he cracked on the climb, losing 3 minutes and the yellow jersey to Vingegaard, who won the stage. Over the next 5 stages, Pogačar repeatedly attacked Vingegaard, but the Dane was able to respond each time. The race headed to the Pyrenees with Pogačar facing a deficit of almost 2.5 minutes to Vingegaard. The 17th stage featured 4 climbs including a summit finish at Peyragudes. Mikkel Bjerg set a fast pace on the second climb before Brandon McNulty set a furious pace on the third climb, dropping everyone but Pogačar and Vingegaard. On the final climb to Peyragudes, McNulty continued to set the pace before the top 2 on GC battled it out in a sprint. Pogačar was able to outsprint Vingegaard to win his third stage in the race, but the Dane still retained a lead of 2.18 inches at the end of the day. The next stage, the race's final mountain stage to Otakam, Pogačar attacked multiple times on the penultimate climb, the Col du Spandels, but Vingegaard was able to respond each time. On the descent of the Spandels, Pogačar crashed, but he was able to quickly get back up. Vingegaard waited for Pogačar, with the two shaking hands once Pogačar had caught up. On the final climb to Otakam, Pogačar was dropped by Vingegaard, with the help of Wout van Aert, who was in the breakaway. Pogačar lost more than a minute to Vingegaard, who won the stage to consolidate his yellow jersey. On the penultimate day individual time trial, Pogačar finished third to consolidate his second place on GC before the final stage to Champs-Élysées. Pogačar finished the stage safely to officially finish second on GC, as well as taking the young rider classification in the process. After the tour, it was confirmed by Javier Guillén, the director of Vuelta a España, that Pogačar elected to skip the 2022 edition of the race. Pogačar returned to racing at the Clásica de San Sebastián, where he was unable to keep up with the pace before climbing off. After a 1-month break, Pogačar rode at the Bretagne Classic and GP Quebec, with the Slovene being unable to battle for the win in both races. At the GP Montreal, Pogačar was part of the 5-man lead group that contested for the win. At the finish, Pogačar outsprinted Van Aert to take his 14th win of the season. Afterwards, Pogačar travelled to Australia to compete at the World Championships. Pogačar finished 6th in the individual time trial before crossing the line in 19th at the road race. To finish the season, Pogačar went to Italy for the Autumn Classics. At the Giro dell'Emilia, Pogačar finished second after he was dropped by Enric Mas on the final climb of San Luca. As his final preparation for his title defence at Il Lombardia, Pogačar rode at the Tre Valli Varesine, where he outsprinted the lead group to win the race, his 15th of the season. Pogačar ended his season at the Il Lombardia, the final monument of the year. After his team controlled the majority of the race, Pogačar attacked on the climb of Cerviglio with around 20 kilometers left. The only ones who were able to follow his move were Mas and Mikel Landa. On the final climb, the San Fermo della Battaglia, Pogačar and Mas dropped Landa before contesting the win in a 2-up sprint. At the line, Pogačar outsprinted Mas to successfully defend his Il Lombardia title. With 16 wins, Pogačar ended the season by being the rider with the most wins in the 2022 season in the men's peloton. 2023. Pogačar started off the 2023 season with a win at the high-end Paraiso Interior, before winning both the overall in the Vuelta a Andalucía and the Paris-Nice. He continued his domination in the classics with a further 3 wins in the Ronde van Vlaanderen, Amstel Gold Race, and La Flèche Wallonne. At the start of the Liège-Bastogne-Liège, Pogačar crashed with Mikel Honoré, which left him with a fractured wrist, bringing an end to his race. His wrist was successfully operated on and Pogačar was able to return to training on the indoor bike a few weeks after, before joining his team at their training camp in Sierra Nevada. This injury occurred only months away from the Tour de France, casting doubts on whether he would be fit to race or be in the form he needed to compete in the general classification, and he had only 2 race days to get in shape before the Tour de France. Pogačar won Stage 6 of the Tour de France 2023 from Tarbes to Cambasque, and Stage 20 from Belfort to Le Marquestine. He came second overall in the general classification. 2024. Pogačar announced a challenging 2024 racing schedule, aiming for a Giro d'Italia and Tour de France double, as well as the Olympic time trial and road race, and the World Championships road race. This pursuit brings him into contention for the prestigious Triple Crown of Cycling, a feat involving winning the Giro d'Italia, Tour de France, and UCI Road World Championships in a single year, an achievement considered by many to be the greatest single feat in cycling. Additionally, only 7 riders have accomplished the Giro Tour double, with Marco Pantani being the most recent in 1998. On March 2, in his opening race of the year, Pogačar won the Strade Bianche with a long solo attack, breaking away with 81 kilometers to go and winning by over 2.5 minutes ahead of second-place Thomas Quinch. On March 16, he placed third at Milan-San Remo, after setting a record time up the Poggio but failing to distance himself enough from the field. Pogačar then won the general, points, and mountain classifications at the Volta a Catalunya, held from March 18 to 24. He secured victory in 4 of the 7 stages, and finished the race nearly 4 minutes ahead of second-place finisher Mikel Landa. On April 21, Pogačar secured his second victory at Liège-Bastogne-Liège with a solo attack from 35 kilometers out, winning his 6th career monument at just 25 years of age. He crossed the finish line with a lead of 1 minute and 39 seconds, the largest winning margin since 1980. Pogačar began the Giro d'Italia as the heavy favorite to win the overall general classification. On Stage 2, he launched a solo attack on the steep climb to Santuario de Europa, winning the stage, taking the pink jersey, and securing a 45 seconds advantage over Geraint Thomas. Pogačar won the individual time trial on Stage 7 ahead of 2-time ITT World Champion and stage favourite Filippo Ganna, after turning a 44 seconds deficit at the bottom of the final climb into a 17 seconds advantage on the finish line. The next day, Pogačar won Stage 8 by managing the race from the front and winning the final uphill sprint. In the third and final week of the race, he added back-to-back wins. First with a stunning solo attack on Stage 15, the queen and hardest stage of the Giro, by closing a gap of almost 3 minutes to the breakaway, including Nairo Quintana, on the final climb before dropping the 2014 winner of the race. Then again after the rest day, he won on the summit finish of the rain-shortened Stage 16. He attacked on the second ascent of Stage 20 on the Monte Grappa, once again dropping everyone before successfully completing a 36-kilometer solo and taking 2 more minutes on the other GC contenders. Pogačar would lead the 2024 Giro d'Italia into Rome with an enormous margin of nearly 10 minutes, 6 stage wins and the mountains classification. Comparisons with Eddy Merckx. While many had been hesitant to make comparisons between Pogačar and Merckx following his first Tour victory, before he even started his second Tour, Cyril Guimard, a former rival of Merckx and a director sportif of Greg LeMond, as well as of former Tour champions Van Impe, Fignon and Dino, claimed that Pogačar was above the level of both Merckx and Dino. Then, following his performance on Stage 8, former Tour de France winner Joop Zoetemelk compared the young Slovenian to Merckx. By the end of the race, Merckx himself said that he regarded the Slovenian as the new cannibal, in reference to his own nickname, also suggesting that if nothing happens to him, he can certainly win the Tour de France more than 5 times. After the 2021 Lombardia, Merckx said that he has heard plenty of cyclists called the new Merckx, but none of them ever fulfilled the promise. In Pogačar's case, he thinks it is finally true because of the races he has already won. Ernesto Camargo said that, according to his experience, Pogačar will be the only one following Eddy Merckx. Personal life. Tadej was born and grew up in Komenda, 20 kilometers north of the Slovenian capital of Ljubljana. His mother Marjetu is a teacher of French and his father Mirko formerly worked in management at a chair factory before joining Tadej's former team Ljubljana Gusto Santic as part of their management team in 2021. Tadej is the third of four siblings. Pogačar lives in Monaco with his partner, fellow Slovenian professional cyclist Urška Zigart. They became engaged in September 2021. His role model is Alberto Contador. He was also an admirer of Frank and Andy Schleck while growing up. In addition to his native Slovenian, Pogačar speaks fluent English and Italian.